Hi, I'm Todd King with the Accident Recovery Team, talking again about frequently asked questions. Our question for today is a work comp question. I have been injured. I am seeing the authorized treating physician. I have restrictions in place, but my employer is not following my restrictions. What do I do? This one's a little bit complicated, but you're going to have to begin by addressing with the doctor the fact that the employer is not following the restrictions. The complication here is that the employer's insurance has appointed that doctor. That doctor answers to the insurance company frequently. They're not necessarily going to go out of their way to advocate for you. But if they have given you restrictions, most doctors admit they want those restrictions followed. You need to be communicating back to the doctor that gave you the original restriction that the employer is not accommodating or following the restriction. Some doctors, if they are actually interested in helping you, will want to address that by making a more specific restriction. They'll begin with a fairly generic restriction. Don't lift this much weight, or how long you can stand or walk, depending on the nature of your injury. If you run into an issue with the employer not following that restriction, it might be something very specific that their doctor has not addressed, that your employer is saying, well, it doesn't say you can't do this. You may need to take that specific task back to that doctor and say, this is what they're wanting me to do, and describe exactly what it is. The doctor then can tailor his restriction to fit that. Not only does he not want you lifting this or walking this far, he may specifically say, I don't want him doing that task. That's your first line of defense. Go back to the doctor and address specifically what it is the employer is not willing to accommodate, and have them specifically address that in a new set of restrictions or amended restriction. If you have a doctor, however, that is not going to advocate for you and assist in that regard, by the way, the doctor can also take you completely off work. The treating doctor, if he's issued a restriction and the employer is not following it, the treating doctor could say, well, if they're not going to follow the restriction, then I want you off work, take you off work. So an unaccommodated restriction or off work status, that can entitle you to an off work benefit. Go reference the other video about how to get off work benefits. So the second thing you can do is, if the doctor is not being an advocate and is not responsive to you in this situation, then you're going to have to get some assistance. Now, this is where your most powerful weapon would be to contact an attorney. But another option you have would be to go to a family physician, get another set of restrictions, take those to your employer. My guess is that's not going to work. They're not going to care. That's an unauthorized doctor. But at least you have taken a step. And that's going to come in handy later, and it gets to this point here. You might need to get an attorney to argue. Anytime you have the employer or their insurance company or the insurance company's physician at a stalemate, meaning that they're doing what they want and your requests, your demands are on deaf ears. They're simply not responsive to you. You have no leverage to make them do anything. You're going to need counsel. Get a hold of an attorney. Our consultations are free and confidential. You can certainly call us anytime. But call an attorney and get them involved. What you have to do is get another doctor, an unauthorized expert opinion. Your family doctor is frequently not the best source for this, because they're not knowledgeable as to the legal issues and definitions that we need contained within a medical opinion. But if you have a family physician's addressing this, a set of restrictions, or at least commenting that you need a restriction, our expert, for example, would be reviewing that record in conjunction with the authorized doctor's record, and it bolsters his opinion that you should have restrictions. It bolsters his opinion that maybe the restriction should be more restrictive. We can take that in front of a judge. The judge can then address the issue of whether you should be having restrictions, whether the employer should be following the restrictions, and the judge can issue certain court orders to assist in that endeavor. So if your employer is not following the restrictions, you do have a remedy. That remedy may be in the courtroom. There's your frequently asked question of the day. I'm Todd King with the Accident Recovery Team. Give us a call at 267-TEAM.